Well, I'm glad that you're ready because we are now live. We are live, Mr.
Very
Jerry.
nice.
How are you?
Great and getting better.
Good. Well, of course you are. I'm here now, and you get to see my pretty face.
No, in case you forgot, I still have that huge 2 foot wide by 4 foot tall picture that scared all the crap out of me the one time. So I never can't see your face if I want to.
That's awesome.
I can
I'm,
say
I'm
that it has
actually
been
glad.
several years since I felt the need to get that out.
But you do have that ability. See,
I have the ability.
you are a very lucky person. Hello, Double. Welcome to the show. And everybody, welcome to Newsworthy.
Hello,
We're happy to be here tonight. Um, we got a lot of things to cover today. We're having some wine. Jerry, I'm going to tell them about the wine while you're doing whatever you're doing. I haven't even tried it yet. Let's try it real quick. Let's try some wine. Interesting. All right, so it is obviously, what is it, Jerry? A
cold, sweet red.
Exactly. And this one is called Sweet Walter Red. It is bottled and cellared by Bully Hill Vineyards in New York. So Hammond's
New York City.
Yes, and
that's not Texas.
No, it's New York City, but there's a reason for that today.
What's that?
The reason is, and we don't cover numbers anymore, but we have somehow developed a pretty devout following up in New York. So nice. I wanted to in California, which has a lot of wine, but they always do the wines that probably doesn't fit our palate.
The highly ranked wines from all the wine connoisseurs.
Yes, that taste like
crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, so got this Sweet Walter Red. Just had the first drink of it. It's not terrible. I have to drink it more of it before I figure out whether or not it is up there in our list. And our list is the important list, right?
Absolutely.
So, real quick before we get into the show, last week I was a bit impassioned, a wee bit impassioned, and I said some things that I said wrong, and probably as a result of me saying them wrong was probably taken wrong, and I just need to clarify and to apologize. Talked about Mr. Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and I was really concerned, and I honestly still am concerned about the ramifications of a stroke. But I in no way, shape, or form or fashion meant that if his stroke and the results of his stroke are only physical, I wish him the very best in representing Pennsylvania and the rest of the United States. My only concern was if he had suffered a mental issue, and I wanted to apologize to him and to anybody in Pennsylvania who voted for him, even though, far be it from me to say that if he's got a physical ailment, he can't serve, and I just don't think that that's the case. So, wanted to apologize for that.
As long as we're doing those, I've got one I would like to make. I think his last episode where we mentioned that Mitch McConnell had said that it didn't matter who the GOP ran as candidates, that we were still going to win. Did a little research and we found out that not only was that not the case, he's actually said the opposite. What he said on numerous times, and the last time being on August 18th at a speech for the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, was when he was asked about the likelihood of the Senate flipping. He said, and I quote, "I think there's probably a greater likelihood that the House flips than the Senate. Senate races are just different. Candidate quality has a lot to do with the outcome," end quote. So, yeah, he's actually said pretty much the exact opposite. So, Mitch, we're still not fans, but we didn't intentionally mean to mischaracterize what you said. And we'll give you credit that it appears after. And trust me, we looked long and hard trying to find evidence that you said this. We can't. So we wanted to say we're sorry and Apparently, he didn't say it.
Now, that being said, today he was reelected as leader of the GOP
Against
in
Rick
the Senate
Scott.
against Rick Scott. The first time in 15 years he's even had someone step up against him. And I just want to say, even though I live in Kentucky, I really wish Rick Scott would have won.
I really do not.
And
I don't like Rick Scott.
well, I don't. It's not a question of like to me. It's a question of, has Mitch become too complacent?
No, he's too complacent. I agree. Now, what did Rick Scott claim when he announced he was going to run against Mitch McConnell? What primary reason did he say that he was doing it? Because of what?
The midterms?
The midterms. That Mitch McConnell, as leader of the GOP, had let down the Republican Party. Sounds right. It makes sense, right?
Well, the leader does get the credit, and the leader also gets the negative.
The leader, to some degree, you're right. Now, if there's one person that would deserve more credit or more blame for Senate candidate that ran in this election, who would it be? Maybe the one guy in the Senate that was elected to do that job and that job only? Which, let's see, who would that possibly be? Oh, Rick Scott. That was Rick Scott's job. But when they lost, he chose to blame Mitch McConnell and say, since you did so poorly, I need to run against you.
Do you think that, well, to me, it just showed, in the Senate, it showed the very similar as Americans are. It's really hard to vote against the incumbent.
It is.
You know, that's what it showed me.
But not only that, here's neither you nor I are Mitch McConnell fans. But one of the reasons we began doing research to see if Mitch McConnell had actually said what we said, he's known to be what? A consummate politician.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't say the wrong thing.
No.
He doesn't do the wrong thing as far as when you stop and look at the optics of what's good for his career and good for the GOP. If there's one person that I had to pick out that does an extremely good job of portraying himself correctly, of saying the right thing at the right time, it'd be Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree with a lot of things he does, a lot of the ways he votes, and blah, blah, blah. He's a consummate politician. I'll give him credit for that. So, yeah, Rick Scott had a long uphill battle when he decided to go against McConnell. And McConnell, from what he was saying at the time, it was very obvious he had zero concern. I think his exact statement at the time was, I have the votes and I will win.
Yeah. And they do that a smart way. So
secret vote.
It's secret vote. That way, there's no repercussions to if someone did choose to vote against them at that time.
Yep.
So one of the other things, since we're playing catch up to everything, I finally called the church. I called 3 times, and unfortunately I have not been able to contact anyone. Perhaps the dark entity has swallowed the church and everyone in it. But I will continue to try to make those calls.
We have it back on our to-do list.
Yeah, it's back on the to-do list, but I have made those calls. So we just couldn't get that out. And I just got to throw out one more thing before we get into the show.
What's that?
2 more things.
And I've got a couple too before we get there.
Your boy, yesterday, your boy, has announced his 2024 run for President of the United States.
My boy passed away. Ronald Reagan is no longer with us, unfortunately.
Well, Donald Trump announced for his presidential run 2024 yesterday.
You blew this up.
What?
Usually before we get to this point, we do the how's your week?
No, I know. I haven't even got to that point yet.
Here's my point. I had the whole thing figured out. You were going to do how's your week? And my response was going to be terrible. Absolutely terrible. Not terrible, terrible. With a U. Terrible. Why?
America.
Why is it terrible? Because Donald Trump announced he's running for president.
Yeah, he certainly is. And in his announcement speech, and here's where you and I differ. If Donald Trump would stick to the script, if Donald Trump would do what his speechwriters give him,
he would be well liked.
This speech was amazing. It was positive. It showed a contrast between himself and what's happened the last 2 years. I was blown away. I was legitimately blown away by his speech and the fact that he was able to maintain his composure while giving the speech. normally he strays off. He starts
way off.
pointing fingers. He starts bad mouthing folks. If he would just stick to the script.
How many times have we said this?
Oh my gosh, we couldn't
many.
we couldn't take our shoes off and make the numbers work.
Now here's something else that I'll say. There's probably not that big of a difference. There's some, but there's probably not that big of a difference between Trump and many other political candidates.
Yeah.
Most of the rest of them are smart enough to realize they need to stick to the script.
Yeah.
Trump, unfortunately, thinks that no matter who his speechwriters are, he's far smarter than they, and they can't tell him what he should and should not say, and by golly, he'll do it his way.
Well,
which 90% of the time he does end up doing it his way.
Yeah.
Which is when he goes, terribly wrong.
The sad thing is, if someone doesn't emerge like a DeSantis or whoever, but between now and New Hampshire, Trump's going to be your nominee. He's already got a guaranteed 30%.
Well, when you
that's
say
hard to beat.
Unless someone emerges, DeSantis has already emerged.
Yeah.
You said last week that you thought he would beat Trump because of several things. One, the margin of victory that he had, which was basically unheard of in a swing state.
Yeah.
This is not a red state. Florida is a swing state. If you remember, the Chads, determining the election between Al Gore and George Bush. This is one of the swing states, and he won it. But do you remember the margin?
40%.
Huge.
Yeah, 40%.
So DeSantis has already done his part. But here's the question: how many people have the kahunas to stand up and endorse DeSantis or anyone other than Trump?
Right. Well, they're going to become an attack. They're going to be attacked. Come under attack immediately. Okay, enough Trump. We'll talk about Trump. We got a whole 2 years to talk about Trump and his run. The other thing that I wanted to mention before we even get started the show was last night. Did you get to see it? Did you stay up for it?
No.
I didn't either. Didn't even know it was happening. But I saw the video today.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The Artemis launch.
You're absolutely right.
Freaking believable.
Saw it today, but not last night.
Wow. This thing is 3 stories tall, 332 feet tall. They said it was the most powerful rocket humankind has ever launched.
Yes.
And it's on its mission now around the Earth, around the moon. It's going to stay out there for a couple of weeks. And then it's coming home. And if everything checks, they're prepping for next year to put 4 astronauts in it, take them around the moon. They're not going to land and bring them home. And then the year after that, they're going to land on the moon. Again.
Some huge plans, some very aggressive plans, and certainly hope that they're successful in every one of them.
Me too. Okay.
Absolutely.
Whew. Got all that out of the way.
Let me finish up a couple of issues. A couple of weeks ago, I did the episode about the Giving Pledge. Someone added themselves to the list this week that I thought was big enough news that we should at least mention it. Last week, last episode when I covered it, if you remember, the person that had originally brought my attention to it was Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. Jeff Bezos himself this week did an interview, and he finally said that he is signing the Giving Pledge, in which he promises to give away the majority of his wealth within his lifetime. He's kind of insinuated and hinted at it before, and he flat out come out and said it this past week. When you're talking about 150 million or $1 billion, this is big news. I agree. He's probably going to keep 1%, which means he's still going to have 150 million. I don't care. When you're willing to give away hundreds of billions of dollars, this is a big deal, and you deserve your kudos for it. The other thing that I wanted to mention, Veterans Day. We just had it a couple of weeks ago. Thank you to every veteran that has ever served. Thank you for your service. A few days ago, I read something that to me summed up Veterans Day and the way we should give tribute to veterans and the way we should look at veterans better than anything I've ever read. Here's what it said. Veterans Day. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. And it is the soldier, not the organizer, who's given us the freedom to demonstrate. And it is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protester to to burn the flag. The quote was by Father Dennis Edward O'Brien, former member of the United States Marine Corps. Very good quote.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really can't add anything to that except, as coming from a family that is lost and from a family that is served, those guys earn it. Every accolade. We couldn't be doing this without that. And there are people all over the world that fight for what they'll never have. So we're very fortunate to have what we have.
There we are.
So, that was deep.
Very deep. But it's hard to discuss Veterans Day and to give proper tribute without getting deep.
No, it is. You're right.
Before
100%.
this, my other favorite quote had probably been, I think
Hey,
it's
Mochi.
a song. Hello, Mochi. All gave some gave all.
Oh, yeah. Billy Ray Cyrus.
Very apt lyrics.
Yeah.
A lot of songs have been sung and a lot of great lyrics, but that one had always stuck with me when I read this one. And I actually was so moved by it that I did a little research on this guy, Father Dennis Edward O'Brien. Really interesting life. He spent most of his life in Mexico and ended up spending the last 15, 20 years of his life dedicated to trying to improve the religious experience for retarded people. Mentally retarded people up until then, he thought had been shorted by the Catholic Church, that not much effort had been made to allow them to participate. And he dedicated the last several years of his life to that pursuit. Just a very good guy.
Interesting.
Very much so.
So,
how was your week?
Oh, dude, busy.
Good.
Last 4 weeks have been really busy. Got a big closing tomorrow. Stoked about that.
Always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Closing. We got a new listing. We got lots of things moving in the right direction. Still doing the part-time gig. Loving that. Helping some folks and enjoying that. What about you?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
It can't be that bad now, terrible. Jerry. Now you get to see my pretty face. We're having, and I just want to say, this good wine is really good wine.
That's helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, my week's terrible. 2 reasons. One, we already covered, Donald Trump. But the other one was, all these years, I thought it was a dryer that was shrinking my clothes.
Oh, really?
Turns out it's a refrigerator all along.
That's good. I like how you worked that in there. It was sweet. I really like how you worked that in there because I was not ready or prepared for that. So good job.
Quite well.
So next week, let everybody know, next week we are doing a Thanksgiving show.
Yes, we are. We'll tell you the premise, right? We don't care to keep that.
No. In fact, I was going to ask people to send in
reasons of what you're
one or two or 10 reasons why you were thankful. We may not be able to read them all, but we'll try to get through
as many as we can.
The whole show next week is all about things that we are thankful for and that our audience is thankful for, and just to look toward the future, I guess, of the things because we want to keep the things we're thankful for. So that's a futuristic thing. So tell them how to reach us and send that stuff in, Jerry.
Well, they have a couple of ways. One is the email, which is newsworthy with stephenjerry@gmail.com. The other is the text line, which is area code 540-709-1318. And again, both of those are on the podcast website. And yeah. Next is recipe. Whose week is it? Last week you thought it was mine. So we did the awesome recipe for potato chips. I think this week is yours, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Need me to go again?
Hey, yeah, that'd be great.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. Do you have something?
Sure.
Awesome. See, this was your idea anyway, so definitely you need to go twice in a row.
Oh, this makes 3 times in a row.
Oh.
I did it 2 weeks ago. Last week should have been your turn, but you asked me, so I did the potato chip. This week, I don't have the link, but I will put it up on the website. And it's from allrecipes.com. And I think the name of the recipe is simply sausage and sauerkraut. You add bacon, apples. Uh, Again, Steve doesn't like sauerkraut, so he's not going to like the recipe. Kind of goes without saying. The only time I've ever in my entire life seen Steve eat sauerkraut was, I think we've mentioned this a few years ago. The precursor to our international night started off with
Cuban sandwiches.
his wife, who, well, before Cuban sandwiches. The way it all got started was your wife loves Reuben sandwiches, and tradition in your family has been on birthday, you get to have the meal of your choice.
Yep.
She had requested Reuben sandwiches, and Steve didn't think it was fair for him to make that since he doesn't like sauerkraut.
Yeah.
So he asked me if I would make it.
If you're a cook, if you are a cook for other people, you have to be able to taste before you serve.
Totally agree.
And
you can't taste.
You can't taste what you don't like.
You're not giving good service if you can't even taste it.
Right.
So he asked me if I would mind making them. I love Reuben sandwiches, so I made them. Part of the sauerkraut for Steve, I did totally drain and rinse, which meant there's like zero sauerkraut flavor. He did try it. I would give him credit. Steve will try most things. He likes to brag about that. Now, in many cases, before the bite actually enters his mouth, before it's actually crossed his lips, he's already scrunching his face up into this, picture of horror that is past his lips. But he will try things.
So, hey, I tried 2 new things tonight.
Yes, you did. I was impressed. So we're now up to 13 things. It's on his approved food list. It was 10 not long ago. But anyway, the recipe for sausage and sauerkraut, if you do like sausage, it is far and away the best recipe. I will give a link to it once we get the podcast put up. And if you like sausage and sauerkraut, it's far and away the best recipe I've ever had. The bacon, the apples, caraway seed, absolute brown sugar. Again, it all depends upon how you like sauerkraut. The recommendation is that you pour out approximately half the liquid. If you're not big into the sauerkraut flavor, which is a vinegar flavor, let's just admit it, that's what it is. If you're not big into that at all, drain more. Also, you offset that by adding brown sugar to where you get it to, the combination of vinegar and brown sugar creates an umami flavor. And you can add as much brown sugar as is needed to get to the point that you like. But incredibly good recipe. Don't have the link in front of me, but we will put it up. And we will now expect Steve to have recipe of the week for the next 3 weeks.
I will do so. And I will have good recipes, not recipes where you actually spend all the time. You cook it, and then you take it, you throw it in the trash, and you go to McDonald's.
That was last week for Grippos.
It's the same.
No, it's not the same. Not for sausage and sauerkraut.
So, we did our show on Ghost.
Yes.
Had a ghost write me the other day.
You had a ghost write you?
Really? Yeah, it did.
Okay. Very nice.
And all it asked is...
We thought our reach was great. We didn't know we was to the supernatural.
I know, right? Well, that's what happens when you start going down these holes.
There you go.
It asked me a question. It says, why do ghosts like to use elevators?
Oh, my goodness. Why is that?
To lift its spirits.
Oh. Very nice. Now, that's obviously for when it's ascending. What about when it's descending?
Oh, it's a ghost. It doesn't have to do that.
Okay. Never descends.
Yeah,
always going up.
Always going up.
Very nice.
Oh, man. Sorry. I got choked. So, the more I drink this wine, the more I like it.
I agree. And again, the name was?
It's Sweet Walter Red.
Sweet Walter Red.
Yeah, it's got like a cartoon picture on the front. It's really neat. It's very good. We've almost killed
it. Every time I hear the name Walter, I can't help but think of Jeff Dunham, his
Oh,
ventriloquist
yeah.
Walter. One of his oldest, if not the oldest, of his dummies.
The one looks just like Joe Biden.
Pretty much, yeah. Thank goodness. I thought he was going to say me.
Well, I didn't want to say this out loud. And I didn't want to take away from our audience getting the visual the first time they come on and see the video, which is coming soon to a YouTube channel near you.
Maybe not. May have to announce my retirement shortly before that.
No, I don't think so. There's no retirement.
From the very beginning, I was saying I wanted to remain anonymous. Next thing I know, Steve was like, hey, let's put in video.
Well, here's the thing. I never thought in a million hundred years that we would be in almost 20 different countries and have covered almost every state in the union.
Very true.
I would have never thought that.
You know, we have not been given credit much lately. Once again, Mr. Mike, thanks. Thanks so much for flying around the world. Thanks so much for bringing Steve and Jerry to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And not only thanking us, I'm sure the rest of the world is thanking him as well.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if the rest of the world's reciprocating that thanks or not. Oh, man. So tonight, we're going to be covering a couple of cool topics. Again, next week, we want to talk about, and I'm going to put this on my Facebook.
Interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
Mochi just asked if you told me how that she made your heart drop. And I have not heard this story, so I'm sure I need to hear it.
Oh, she was talking. She sent me a message. I was in a meeting yesterday,
okay,
and I looked at my phone, and the only message I got was Russia just bombed Poland.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, holy shit!
I'm sure your immediate thought was everything I've been telling you people.
And I'm like, oh, so then
that was the first thing that come out. That was the first thing you were saying.
And that's so wrong because.
But it's the way the media works.
Yes.
It's attention grabbing.
As soon as I broke away from my meeting, I actually stopped the meeting for a minute and said, hey, I got to check this out. Because the beginning of World War III is kind of a big deal. Yeah. And that's what that would be.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You know, I mean, that's so.
If I'm not mistaken, it real quickly got countered. But had not Joe Biden already called a meeting with G7 and NATO?
Well, he was at the G20 at that time.
Yes. You don't attack a NATO member without serious consequences.
Yeah. And, you know, my first thought was, okay, and I look it up and it's only 2 missiles. And I'm like, that is not how you instigate a war.
If it happened, it was an accident.
Right. Yeah. And I was fearful all night, to be honest, that we were going to overstep or use this as an opportunity to escalate further.
I don't know when they come out and said, here's what we really believe happened.
It was late last night, earlier today.
I didn't see it until today. But yet real quickly, Biden and the rest of the world said, here's what we think actually happened. We think is Ukraine. But you're right. When the news headline first come out, I thought 2 things. Number 1, oh shit. Number 2, damn it, Steve's going to say, I told you so.
Well, yeah, so that's why my heart dropped yesterday. That is I feel that, I'm no kidding, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a show about Ukraine, my part of the show, very soon. There's some stuff coming out about Ukraine every day that, remember yesterday or the day before, we decided all of a sudden we were going to send people in on the ground to monitor where our equipment was going.
Not the day before. That's 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay, well, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. You sent me an email.
And I was like, what the? Well, here, we're creeping. That's what my intent was. I didn't realize it until after I started digging. It's because the equipment we're sending in there is being sold on the black market all over the world.
Well, I mean, does that not always happen to some degree? Now, very small percentage.
Hey, Raccoon, glad you're here.
Hello, Raccoon. But yes, you always run that danger,
Well,
with them or anyone else that we've ever given crap to.
Yeah, no, I get it. But if you're in the middle of defending yourself from the big bad Ruskies, you don't sell the stuff we're sending you to.
The country isn't. To be honest, what's happening is there a few corrupt people that sees an opportunity to make some money? Sure. But the country is, not doing this, to be fair. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
So I'm going to do my whole show. Part of the show is going to be on Ukraine very soon. Not next week. Next week we're doing Thanksgiving. I can tell
you what it's going to be because you've been pretty clear from the very beginning.
You ain't kidding.
Here's all I've got to say. I hope that our allies help us more than you expect us to help Ukraine if we ever need help. Because you think we should help them very, very little.
There's a difference between very little and $100 billion we don't have.
Hold on.
There's a huge difference.
You remember
there's a middle there somewhere.
Remember what you just said a couple of weeks ago, and I'll get out the actual text message and quote it. When you sent me a copy of the note that we had troops on the ground, we
Yes.
had boots on the ground in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Do you remember what your comment to that was?
I don't.
America should not lose one troop for Ukraine. Not one. Now, once again, I sincerely hope that our allies are willing to help us more should we ever need them than you're willing to help Ukraine. Heaven forbid we lose one guy helping Ukraine. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's where you're coming from.
And it comes from age. It comes from having children who are of age and would immediately be, my one son is in reserves.
From the Marines.
He would automatically be recalled. And it comes from two more of my children who have families already in the age group in which they could be drafted if World War III breaks out. Those are real concerns for me.
They are.
But
it's true for any country helping anyone. It's serious stuff. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. I'm just saying Ukraine is in a position where the future of their country is at risk.
Sure.
Period.
Well, I get it.
Period. And if you don't help these guys who have shown great allegiance to us since the fall of the USSR, who have tried to align themselves very closely with us, who've tried to be a great ally to us. No, they're not a member of NATO yet, although they want to be. They have requested to be. The only reason they're not a member of NATO is because we have refused them admission, probably for good reason, because we were afraid, number
Russia
one,
was going to attack them.
Not only that Russia would attack them, we first of all, when the USSR failed, we made several promises that we have not kept to Russia. We have promised that we would not bring NATO 1 inch closer. We've done that many times. So we can say all we want about the horrible things Russia's doing, and it's true. We have not kept up our end of the bargain.
How many times do you think that's actually happened?
What, us advancing towards Russia? Many times.
No, I mean us not following through.
Oh,
and this is a big deal.
Well, this goes back to the beginning of our country. And look at the way we did Indians. How many promises and treaties did we make and then turn around 10 years later and tear it up and say, well, we're going to have to renegotiate this? We've done it many times.
Yeah. So, how about we get to today's actual show topic?
Maybe that's a good idea.
How about we start? Okay, so our actual show today is not Ukraine. Our actual show is going to be, we're going to be talking about the capitalization of Christmas, the commercialization of Christmas, excuse me. And whatever. And to scam or not to be scammed. And let's let you go ahead and start with the commercialization of Christmas, because I think, as we talked about over dinner, that most people have a history of their lifetime. Like, I think the best time in the world to be alive was the 90s. You probably think the best time in the world to be alive was the 40s. So, we tend to think within our age.
Over dramatic much? Somehow I'm not surprised you would go that far.
So let's talk about Christmas. Tell us all about it.
Well, the question of is Christmas over commercialized is probably a pretty simple question, I would think. And I would think that, depending upon who you ask, there would be some variance, but most people are going to say yes. You find very few people, or I have in my lifetime that I've talked to, who don't believe that Christmas has been over commercialized. But the question, is Christmas over commercialized, is a little bit deeper. As you said, when you talk to old timers, you tend to get a story which will basically be everything was perfect until 30, 40 years ago, and then everything went downhill straight down. That's just what you seem to get. The truth is, it didn't happen that way. Not that much has changed in the last 30 or 40 years. It happened over a period of time. Obviously, Christmas originally is a Christian festival celebrating the birth of Christ. That is literally the meaning. Christmas, meaning a mass for Christ, or the birth of Christ. A mass to celebrate the birth of Christ is the literal translation for the word Christmas. Now, again, as we said, it didn't happen overnight. It happened through a period of time. It happened through attrition. There's many different aspects of Christmas. There's many different traditions associated with Christmas, and those traditions will vary from country to country, and even within countries from region to region. But all of those change dramatically. We'll start with the Christmas tree. That began with fir trees, possibly began, we're not for sure. But the Christmas tree tradition may have begun with fir trees decorated with apples in Strasbourg in roughly 1605.
Wow.
Somehow we got from there to the fancy Christmas trees you see today, the vast majority being artificial because it turned out that the real Christmas trees were a real fire hazard after you brought them indoors and
dried them out.
For a month, and they ended up so brittle that a hot Christmas light could set them on fire. But again, a long way from the point. And actually, if you want to go back a little bit further, there is evidence in the 1400s of Christmas tree branches being brought in. There was a tradition in some countries of just branches, not a whole tree, just branches. Question?
Yeah. When did the celebration of Christmas as we start? Was that like right after? I mean, are we going back?
Which part of the Christmas tradition are you referring to?
I'm talking about celebrating the birth of Christ.
Probably at the time of Christ.
Okay.
Or very shortly thereafter.
Okay.
But you're talking about a secular. You're talking about, first of all, your question was a non-secular question. Christmas has become very much a secular tradition, right?
Sure,
it's
sure.
celebrated regardless of religion or even lack of religion.
Yeah.
There's many non-religious people. There's some who will say they're so non-religious that they refuse. But you've got many.
Those are the happy holidays, folks.
Yeah, pretty much. But you've also got atheists. You've got Muslims. You've got many Muslims. You've got Jewish who do not believe in Christ. But in America, the majority of people celebrate Christmas. It's become a very secular holiday. So when you ask when did we begin celebrating Christmas as we know it, I would have to ask which part. There's so many different parts. If you're talking about gifts, which obviously the original idea of gifts at Christmas goes back to the three wise men that came to Bethlehem with the gifts of what? Do you remember the three gifts?
Frankincense, myrrh, and
most expensive element in the world.
Oh.
Not most expensive, but traditionally, historically, the most traditional element. The
gold.
Gold.
Yeah.
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Okay, well, I know that those were good enough for Christ, but I just want our fans to know I wear a crew size 7 days if anyone wants to do Christmas for me this year.
We'll get to that later. We'll get to that. Gold is obvious. We know what it is. Frankincense. What is frankincense? The name kind of gives it away, right? What is it?
It is definitely I use it as a scented oil.
It's an incense.
Yeah.
It's an incense.
Yeah.
Myrrh. What is myrrh?
I have no idea what myrrh is.
Most people don't. It's not taught in Sunday school, right?
Is it the guy who is on Impractical Jokers?
Myrrh was an embalming oil.
Why would you give somebody that as a gift?
Yeah, first of all, I have no idea if that was a typical gift that the rich.
Oh.
Because keep in mind, we're not talking about things typically given by poor or middle class people. These are gifts from the rich.
Right.
If you're giving gold, that's very rich. I'm not for sure if even among the rich this was a typical gift. If it was, how morbid can you get? Oh, congratulations on the birth of your new child, but by the way, if it doesn't work out, here's some embalming oil. Are you kidding me? You're absolutely right. Now, in the case of Christ, not so much morbid, not so much wondering why, because the intent was never for him to be on earth long.
Right.
Again, as I said, it's morbid when you think, congratulations on the birth of your child. If it doesn't work out, here's some embalming oil. In the case of Christ, it was if things do work out, he's not going to be here long. He's going to ascend back.
Right, and he was the answer to a prophecy.
Absolutely.
A prophecy that the wise men already knew about.
Absolutely. Back to some of the traditions. We talked about.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. You're fine. The Advent calendar, according to tradition, was created in the 19th century by a Munich housewife who got tired of having to answer endlessly, "When will Christmas come?" I have no idea if that's true, but it makes perfect sense. You could absolutely see some mother getting tired of being asked 40, 11 times per day, when is it going to be Christmas Day? She come out with a calendar. Okay, well, for every day we get to open one. You can see how many days are left. That's when Christmas will be here.
Speaking of that,
Yes.
it makes me, as a father of 5 children now with a bunch of grandkids, I understand why Yoda just died. He had answered. He had got Luke had asked him so many questions, and he just died. I understand that. I always wondered why he did that in the movie. Now I understand.
When your kids were young, did you make many long distance trips?
Yeah, usually.
I did a lot. I lived in Virginia. All my family lived in Kentucky. We were driving back and forth quite often. It was just my daughter and I for a lot of the trips. Every trip would be just so often. Dad, when are we going to be there? Are we almost there? When are we going to be there? I got tired of looking at the clock and doing the math and figuring it up. So I got to where I would just say pretty soon. To this day, the two words that my daughter most hates to hear in the world is pretty soon. She hated to hear pretty soon. You're absolutely right. Kids will ask a million times. The next question, the last question, or the last aspect that I'll get to concerning Christmas traditions is gifts. That's why when we're talking about Christmas being commercialized.
Motion brings up a good point. You're talking about gifts.
Let's see. Would Mochi Munchie? Yeah, great question. Would Mochi Munchie goodies be a good Christmas gift? It will absolutely be a great gift. I'll even go ahead and tell this story. It's a little embarrassing. We had a comment left by someone that will remain unnamed.
Oh.
We had a comment a while back, and we wished to reward the person, so it was double, and we purchased some items from Mochi and sent to her. Fortunately, very short distance in between, and it didn't involve a exorbitant amount of freight cost,
Yeah.
right? So my first thought when Steve was telling me about this comment was we should get some gifts from Mochi's Munchies and send them to the person. My next thought was this person probably lives in Egypt. We're probably going to spend $117 to ship $5 worth of cookies. But Mochi, to answer your question, they would be absolutely great gifts for anyone. Probably even worth $117 to ship to Egypt.
Yeah. Back to Christmas. We keep getting derailed because
Back to
Christmas is such a good and yet polarizing thing.
It is.
So back to your topic.
As far as the practice of giving gifts, that became predominant in the end of the 18th century in the United States. It had already become predominant in other countries. As you and I were speaking earlier, the Puritans who founded America thought it was very anti-religious to commercialize Christmas by giving gifts. So they pretty much made it, illegal. It was prohibited according to, not illegal, but it was prohibited according to church doctrine to do that. It was meant to be spent, according to them, as a time in reflection of what the gift to the world had meant. And it was not something that was to be given gifts to families and children and so forth. But as far as in the United States, that's when that it became common, was toward the end of the 18th century. Now, theologically, the feast day was supposed to remind us Christians of God's gift of Jesus to humankind. I say well established because the first occasion of gift giving, as we mentioned earlier, obviously doesn't start in the 18th century. It goes all the way back to the wise men. And we talked about gold and frankincense and myrrh and what myrrh means. But again, by the end of the 18th century, the very beginning of the 19th, is when the tradition of gift giving at Christmas had become popular in the United States. Now, that's when it began to get a little crazy. The tradition was captured real quickly that the retailers figured out what was going on. It became a very profitable season for them. Black Friday. You remember why it's called Black Friday?
Nope.
Really? You've forgotten?
Yep.
In the old days, before computers, accountants kept track of ledgers, right?
Yeah.
Anything in red meant what? Red ink.
Yeah. And
red ink meant a loss.
Yeah.
Black ink meant a profit. Black Friday is known as Black Friday because on Black Friday, everything was black. There was no red. There was no losses. It was called Black Friday because of the way that we did accounting back in the day. And Black Friday was the day that everything, no matter how piss poor your business was, no matter how bad a year it was, on Black Friday, you went to the positive. Your ink from your accountant was in black.
And as both of us old retail dogs, we know all leading up. But even maybe it changed. I got out a little bit before you did as far as real retail goes.
Right.
Even when I was still in retail, we would maybe we'd push Christmas up to right up to Thanksgiving, but we hadn't started really putting
No, it was
things out.
before that.
You think
It was
so?
way before that.
No, you're right.
One company
It's
you
been
and
a
I
while.
worked for had a Christmas in July event every year.
Oh, yeah, that's
we
right.
didn't go crazy.
That's
we would
right.
have like an ad 1 or 2 weeks, but we did Christmas in July.
That's
when you
true.
and I worked together, going back
Gosh.
to what, late 90s, early 2000s? I guess?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we were doing Christmas in July.
I'm surprised you
back
remember
then.
that. I mean, you were pretty old back then. So
Well, according to you, I was like 159 at that time, right? Now, once again, the retailers figured out there was a chance. First of all, they were already becoming popular. They were becoming very profitable, and they figured out there was an opportunity for them to do better. So, the real marketing began, and that's what began the true commercialization of Christmas. But it's one thing to run ads. Those ads aren't effective. Those ads don't work unless what happens?
we go buy the stuff.
We respond. We respond in a positive way, and we go by. We fall prey to these ads, and that's exactly what happened. They began during the turn of the 20th century. They began their direct marketing efforts at children in the hopes that they would entice the parents to buy more goods, and it worked, and it worked really well. And in fact, by the early 2000s, it was estimated that shoppers in the United States alone, this is again early 2000s, would spend over $4 billion each day during the Christmas season. Killed that bottle, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. With an average household spending almost $1,000 in gifts. We've come a long way, not good ways, but we've certainly come a long way. There are concerns that gift giving during Christmas has become too commercial. Over 70% of respondents to an online survey of over 13,000 people in 14 European countries in 2016 said that way too much attention is put on spending during the Christmas period. 42% of those people said they felt forced to spend more at Christmas. 10% said they borrowed money to be able to afford the gifts. And that's where I think that you passed all lines. At that point, there's no longer a question of, is it too commercialized? Are we going too far? You went too far when I understand if there's things that happen. Maybe you had a bad year and, Uncle Joe fell and dad got hurt and mom was laid off. There's many reasons why you might have a bad year and need to borrow money. If you continually, year after year, have to borrow money to pay for Christmas, you're doing it wrong, in my humble opinion. Economists say that because of the mismatch between how the giftee values the gift and the way that the person who receives it views the gift, that there is a difference between 1/10 and 1/3 of their value that is called a deadweight loss of Christmas. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You spend $10 for a gift and the person looks at it and says, crap's worth $5 at most. There's a difference between 10% and 33% that is considered a deadweight value of Christmas. Now, in 2020, the last year that I could find estimates, you want to guess how much was spent in America, all of America, on all of Christmas gifts in 2020?
Oh,
What's your
my
best
gosh. $80 billion.
$777 billion. Americans spent $777 billion.
That's more than the GDP of most countries in the world.
Here's some Christmas statistics for you. 15% are unhappy with their gifts. 10%, 2 months later, couldn't remember what they got. They can't remember what they received. 25% said that they had regifted at least some of their gifts to others. 14% said they had sold some of their gifts. 10% had tried to return them to stores. 5% had actually returned the gift to the buyer.
That's crazy.
Seniors are more likely to give unwanted gifts to charity. Those in the 25 to 34-year-old range. Want to guess what they do with their unwanted gifts?
What?
Throw them away in the trash.
Shit.
They're more apt to. Not saying they do it with everyone, but they're more apt to throw it away than they are to do anything else. They don't repurpose it. They don't regift it. They throw it in the trash. Any idea? Give me your best guess of the total estimated. Obviously, it's an estimate. What's the total estimated value of unwanted presents in the United States every year?
So we just learned that $700 billion.
777 billion.
770 billion is spent.
How much is flat out not wanted?
400 billion.
Half?
Half.
Really? Well, you really think we really suck at giving gifts. 15.2 billion is absolutely unwanted.
Yeah, this is why I do gift cards now.
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Women
spend on average 20 hours shopping for Christmas. Women get screwed in life. You know, they really do. There's no two ways about it. No, I don't mean literally, as you're over here humping the air. I mean figuratively, okay? Thanks for throwing that. Oh, man. These things can go downhill so quickly. So quickly. Women truly do get screwed in life. When you look at childbirth, you look at periods. If you look at one thing alone, one of the biggest, you're going to talk about scams, right? I've got a far bigger scam for you than you're going to cover. Somewhere along the line, men have convinced women, you're ugly. You people don't look good. You need to get up every morning and put on a bunch of cosmetics. You need to spend a lot of time working, with your hair. You need to do all this stuff to make yourself look better. And us guys, we look great. We don't need to do any of that.
Whatever.
That's one of the biggest scams in the world. How we were able to convince women of this is beyond me. Women truly, apparently, according to you, figuratively and literally get screwed. Anyway, women on average spend 20 hours per year shopping for Christmas presents. And as Steve alluded to earlier, 56% of U.S. consumers wish to receive a gift card as a present instead of a present. So, has Christmas become overly commercialized? Absolutely. I think you'd probably have a hard time finding people who would disagree with that. Now, whose fault is that? It's ours. As we said, they can run all the marketing efforts that they want, but it's their choice. It's every family's choice of whether or not they're going to go along with it and to what extent. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you're going in debt year after year to pay for Christmas, you're probably doing it wrong. Yes, there's pressure from society. There's pressure from neighbors and friends and family members to overspend. There always has been. There always will be. But it's still up to you and your family to decide what you're going to emphasize during the holidays, right?
Yep.
Now, if you're religious, are there pressures to conform to societal standards of many things? Of how to dress, how to talk, how to act? Of course.
Yeah.
And those things make it hard to strictly adhere to your religion, to what you believe, right? But here's my point. If you can't resist those temptations regarding how to observe Christmas traditions, you're probably going to fail in all the others as well.
Yeah.
Once again, it's all up to you and your family. Now, so my suggestion would simply be this. Have a talk with your spouse. Determine what's important. Determine what's feasible. Determine what's realistic. Set a budget and stick with it. Unless you're extremely rich and money's no object. If you're not, once again, our PayPal address is newsworthy with Steve and Jerry at gmail.com. Please give generously.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was very well covered, Jerry. And, I think that in era of our show, this needs to be covered more. Because even if you are well-to-do and money's no object, Christmas isn't about the dollars.
Never. Shouldn't have been.
Shouldn't have been. And a lot of the problems that are generated in our youth are from over-gifting. giving too much.
And what? Think about it. What are we teaching our kids when we do that?
Right. Well, we're teaching them that that's what it means, that that's what it's
And
about.
those are the important things in life.
Yeah, and it really isn't. So I would absolutely 100% agree. And you're right. I'm about to cover scams.
Truthfully, before you start,
Okay.
are any of them bigger than the scam that we have perpetrated upon women? Figuratively or literally, I'll let you take that the way you wish.
No, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the actual factual. In your favorite genre of things that we do, which is you are a huge fan of Podbean, or not Podbean, huge fan of TikTok.
No.
Yeah, oh no, you love TikTok.
I'll listen to it occasionally. Not like I used to, but I do like TikTok.
One of the big raging things now is where the women do their makeup up and it's a completely different woman. It from night
Well,
to day.
apparently you watch more TikTok than I do. I hadn't saw the trend.
Oh well, you need to. And
we're just going to skip right on past it. You're watching more TikTok than
no, I'm not. I don't watch TikTok. I don't even have TikTok downloaded on my phone. That's for
losers like me.
Other people. But I think for the most part, women are way more beautiful without it.
Think so?
Yeah, I do. Honestly.
What is Mochi talking about with eyelashes? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, no clue.
But apparently you like eyelashes and feet pic.
Eyelashes, yeah, maybe. Feet pics, not so much.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about scamming.
Let's do it.
It is the season for scamming.
Very true.
And we'll get into some of the stats here in a minute. I'm just going to jump right in because of lack of time about some of the biggest. Now these stats are coming from the AARP and they're coming from the Consumer Fraud Reporting.com. Both of the that's a .gov. Excuse me. We want to just let you know what to be looking out for. If you have folks or elderly folks in your family that tend to get riled up or tend to if you have I have completely lost my train of thought. If you have folks in your family that fall for things, that answer the phone, that are elderly, that are young men and women, believe it or not, the elderly and the 20 to 25 age group are the most heavily scammed folks. And we're just going to cover a few of the scams that are out there. The Google Voice scam. How this scam typically works is you list an item for sale online. Somebody comes on and they tell you that you have to figure out this code to be able to get paid. And when you do all your information in there, they get a track and can figure out how to steal your money. So don't share verification codes with anybody. That's the lesson from that. In big cities especially, this isn't much of a problem around here. Rental assistance cons. These are cons that will say they're going to help you rent another apartment or another place. You give them your information. They're going to go out and look for it. Again, you've given up your information. It seems like it'd be great because now you have somebody professional looking out for you when all they're doing is fleecing your bank accounts or stealing your identity. Fake jobs, those have been out for 100 years. Those are pretend to be, recruiters. They'll call, they email, or text, and they just want to work with really high dollar jobs that you're not doing much with,
right?
And or work from home jobs, and you have to pay some fees to get that started. They're going to take your fee and leave you high and dry. Fake him. Okay, so 1/3 of business imposter complaints involves scammers claiming they're from Amazon. An entire third in our country. And basically that means losing about $1,500 a person, $814 for younger adults. Again, that's the second highest group of scammed people in America, the 20 to 25 age group. Basically, they come on, they say that they're real, they want to give you a discount or whatever. You have to give them some information, which they should have if they're actually from Amazon. They don't, so you have to give them some extra. That's when they got you. They steal everything in your bank account. If you ever have a question, please, please, please call Amazon support from their website. They will actually give you the right and tell you to save your money.
Now, how would that start? Like with an email?
Oh yeah, well, they do it many different ways. They even in some of the bigger cities now, they're even in trucks driving to residences that they have seen. They'll be in a neighborhood and they'll mark one day all the packages and where they go, and then they will go back to those houses saying, "Hey, we sent you the wrong thing. Can I have your package back?" And I will bring you the actual package here. And it's basically,
how many people would fall for that?
Oh
if
my
you already
gosh.
opened it and it's the crap you ordered.
I'm just saying, it wouldn't be on air if that wasn't accurate.
I know.
And for some people, this stuff makes no sense, and there's no way that we would ever fall for it. But if you're an elderly person who's not real comfortable with ordering from Amazon to begin with, maybe that makes a little more sense.
It does.
So basically, if anyone calls you local tax imposters, if the tax person calls you and wants you to pay your tax bill in gift cards, that's a scam. The tax people will never call you.
Period.
Ever.
So it doesn't even matter if they want you to pay. They don't call. Period.
Right. They will always send you a letter, a written letter. Some of the older folks probably aren't going to fall for some of these. However, some of the younger folks really will, and that's the P2P payment request, person to person, Venmo, Zelle, I think Cash App is another one. And basically, somebody pops up claiming to be one of your old buddies, saying, "Hey, could you spot me 20?" You spot them 20. You don't know who this person is, and they've got your money. Much lower dollar amounts typically. But that is unfortunately a very, very real thing. Oh,
very much so.
All right, now we're going to switch over real quick because we want to get into some of the other ones, and these are from the Consumer Fraud and Reporting.org website.
Okay.
And we're not going to do the top 10 because those top 10 are very similar to the ones that AARP had. One of the difference is a phone scam, just a regular phone scam. These scammers are so good at this point. They can steal and clone a number that you might even recognize and call you from it, or at least get in within the city. Here in Lawrenceburg, it's 502, in the area code. And get at least within the city, so you think it might be a local call.
Right.
So you answer it. Yeah. So you answer it, and then they have this plea: "Hey, we're getting ready to shut off your water if you don't turn, or whatever they're pretending."
I actually have an app on my phone, Fake ID, I think is the name of it, and I can call anybody and pretend to be any number I wish.
Oh wow!
And that's totally legal, unless there's certain things I can't pretend I'm the White House. I can't pretend I'm some government installation. I'm going to get the wrong people showing up at my door in a little bit. Literally, you can go to the Play Store and download these apps. That's how easy it is to do what you're talking about.
Wow. Crazy. So a couple of the other ones, and this is again...
Before you move on, do you mind real quick? Here is to the extent. Don't ever trust anyone that calls you unless you recognize the voice of the person talking. Here's what I mean. If someone calls you from Discover credit card, American Express credit card, whatever credit card, and let's say by chance you have a credit card with these people, and when they call you and say, "Hey, we just noticed a questionable transaction on your account, just wanted to call and verify." If they want to tell you the place and the amount, that's fine. You can say, "Yes, I made that transaction. No, I did not." If they ask for anything else, you simply say, "What company are you with? Let me get my credit. I don't need your phone number. I'll look on the back of my credit card and get the number, and I'll call you back."
Yep.
You tell me what extension. Don't ever trust anyone. Here's why. If they ask you for any information, it's a scam.
Yep.
I don't care if you got a credit card with these people.
These companies always already have the information.
They don't need to
and
ask
they
you
don't
your
need
number.
to ask you exactly.
They might ask you, what are the last three digits of your zip code, or what's your zip code. They might ask you by the way, the last four of your credit card number, don't ever give. The rest of it is almost automatic. The first number tells you, is it Visa, MasterCard? Visa's 4, MasterCard's 5, American Express is 6. That's the first number. The first 4 will identify the bank. The first 8 are just really common. The first 12 is not uncommon. The last 4 is unique and identifies you. Don't ever give that out. Don't trust anyone who calls you. Ask them what company they're with. You look up the number of that company, you call them back.
Yep. If it's that important, they'll be okay with that.
Absolutely.
And that was what I was getting to. Anybody that calls you and asks for anything, you just simply tell them no. I'll call you back, just like Jerry said. Also, if you get a bunch of emails and you don't have a proper spam filter set up on your account, don't open anything that has a downloadable attachment. Don't open anything that has any kind of link that could install a Trojan horse. They can pretty much
tell them what you mean by that. When you say don't open, you can actually click on the email and look at it.
Yeah.
But if it has an attachment or if it has a link, don't click those.
Yeah, and get rid of it. Because those are usually some sort of phishing and or Trojan horse. They're trying to take over your computer. I learned that lesson the hard way when I lived in Colorado. Remember?
Yep.
I ended up breaking my whole computer trying to do a root fix on it. Didn't work out so well. One of the biggest ones that I hate, and everybody's gotten these calls. There's 2. The extended car warranty.
Everyone's gotten that one
multiple times. And most people have at some point in their life from on an email, most people has gotten the email from the Nigerian prince.
Oh, yeah.
Asking you to send $3,500 and he would release $2 million to you.
Actually, the ones I get, he's not wanting anything except for my information.
Oh, wow.
He wants to know my name, address, date of birth, social security number, bank account number, so he can wire me the money.
Oh, how about that?
Isn't that nice of
him?
That
is.
Super nice guy.
Yeah. Credit bureaus, anybody claiming, okay, as a realtor, this one kind of burns my biscuits because I've had a couple of clients that got really screwed over by this. If a company is calling you and saying, we can fix your credit, you pay us $160 and we'll make all your bad stuff go away, that's a scam. It's impossible to do that. I don't even care if they're a lawyer. It's impossible to do that.
Yep.
The only thing that fixes your credit is to be responsible and time. That's it. Unfortunately, that sucks, but you have to be responsible. And then when you're responsible, that has to happen over a certain amount of time to be able to repair your credit. I'm sorry. Clickbait scams, ads that you scam, medical alert scams. There's so many different. One of the big ones that affect seniors the most is the grandchild calling, I'm in jail.
Yeah.
Can you send money to get me bailed out? Most of the time, unfortunately, the grandparents don't really realize it's not their grandchild and always want to help their grandchildren get out of bad situations. So that's a terrible one. And probably the one I hate the worst, Jerry. Do you want to know what the scam is I hate the worst?
Sure, what is it?
The scam I hate the worst is the predator on the people that have already gotten scammed. And these people guarantee you that if you've gotten scammed, they're going to get your money back. And it's usually not one person. They're usually represented by an attorney or a supposed attorney. And even if you do somehow get your money back, you've spent way more than that to have this whole process happen.
Well, you'll almost never get your money back.
Almost never.
99% of these guys are in another country, and there is no way, there's no court, there's no court of law, there's no attorney that can go sue and reclaim profits from
Right.
some scammer in some third world country. It's not going to happen.
No.
Money's gone. Once you
This is a
it's gone.
multi-billion-dollar a year entry in
Industry.
Thank you. And it happens every day. And every day they get trickier and trickier and more drawn out as to how they're going to scam that money from you. So just keep your pocketbook close to you. Times are hard. We don't have money to take care of us, and we certainly don't have money to be scammed away.
Absolutely.
So be careful with your money. Again, next week, I just want to wrap up real quick. We're going to be talking about nothing but things we're thankful for. Jerry, how can they send them to us?
2 ways. They can send their comments, questions, suggestions, or for those incredibly rich that wish to show their generosity, PayPal address of newsworthy with stephenjerry@gmail.com, or the text line at area code 540-309-1318.
Guys, we appreciate all you that have listened, all of you that are helping our podcast grow. Please, whatever format you're listening to it, like it, give it a thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever. Help us grow even more. We appreciate you. And if you can't see the light,
Be the light.
have a great night, guys. Thank you.